in a world where markets are saturated with options and the competition is fiercer than ever, especially here in the Scandinavian countries where consumers are increasingly mindful of what a company stands for, not just what it sells. In this environment, it's no longer enough to actually have a great service or product. If you want to stand out, you need to really go deeper. You need to communicate why you do what you do, because today's consumers, investors, and partners aren't just buying products, they're buying into values, into beliefs, into missions that they can align with. If your business doesn't have a strong purpose behind it, you risk of becoming just another among many others. So, we are going to look into how to structure your message so you can actually sell not just your product, but your vision or your actual why. In this, and doing so, we will learn how to engage people on a level to become way more above than just feature and prices. You'll learn how to position yourself, your business, in a way that it resonates with people, it builds trust and creates loyalty. So, let's start with the tough questions. Why should anyone actually care about your business? And how do you make them care about your business? Well, it's all about how you communicate it. Your business, how you communicate it, how you persuade people, how to influence them, and of course, the most important, you want to try to sell your product or service with it. There's a very known theory which shows how leaders and very good speakers are able to inspire action instead of actually manipulating people into doing something. And this is exactly what we want to do in business. The theory is called the Golden Circle theory, which is made known by Simon Sinek. The idea is very simple. Instead of starting the presentation of what your company does and how you do it, which is actually what most companies do now in marketing, you should start with your why. Explain the purpose behind your business, why it exists, and why it matters. Then you start with your how. Show how actually you do it, how you set yourself aside from others, how you solve problems in a different way, or maybe even better than most of the others. And only then, at the end, you describe what your product is, or what your service is, and what you're going to do for them. But only after when you establish your purpose and how you deliver on it. Let me give you an example. Let's say you make websites for business. A very common way of structuring your messaging is something like this. We create custom websites which are responsive, they look cool, we have a lot of experience in creating web pages with a very strong team. Come and buy from us. Not very convincing, is it? A good example of the same company will sound something like this. We believe that every business deserves an impactful online presence, and that the lack of digital skills should not be a limit for you. We are passionate about empowering brands to thrive in the digital worlds in a way that we truly represent their unique identity and their values. We achieve this by taking a personalized approach to every project that we do. We work very closely with our clients to understand their vision, their goals, and target audience. We are a full-service website design agency. Come and work with us. Sounds very, very convincing, and it's way more into the actual purpose that they have to help companies. This is why actually this method is so effective. It's because it aligns on how our brains are wired and how we make decisions. I'm not going to go too much into the biology of it and how it works, but this is basically, we have 3 different levels of how we actually take decisions, and that's why this method is structured in the way that it is. So, how do you figure out your why? Well, let's start with reflecting a bit on what sparked the idea of your business in the first place. I have a lot of people who participate also in our workshops and come and say to me, well, Sissy, I just want to make money. Which is fair, but making money could be in very different ways. And money is just a byproduct of you delivering value for somebody else. You could have done this by selling something, having a different product, or even something very completely different. So you have to think about a few questions like what values drive your business, and look beyond just the profit. Do you care about sustainability? Do you care about innovation, maybe helping others? What motivated you to actually take action when you started your business? Reflect on the motivation. What was the moment or this experience that made you realize, oh, I have to do something about this because this seems to be a very big issue? Sometimes the why that you have comes from a very emotional and strong reaction to a problem that you had in real life. It could be also part of your family identity. Maybe your upbringing, your family values, maybe you were influenced by somebody in your family who was doing some similar activities when you were a child. You can also think about how would you actually want to be remembered, your own legacy, maybe what kind of reputation or legacy you would like to leave behind with your business. For example, a lot of you might know the brand Patagonia. Their founder didn't just start a company to sell clothes. He was a very passionate rock climber who cared very deeply about the environment. So he saw how the outdoor sports were actually damaging nature and felt a very big responsibility to create a sustainable and eco-friendly gear. His why, in the way, was protecting the planet. And that was born of his personal love of the outdoors and his desire to minimize the harm that we actually do to it. After explaining your purpose, move to how your business stands from everyone else. This is where you showcase your unique value proposition. What makes your approach different or better than other competitors on the market? Take, for example, Tesla. Their purpose is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. Their how actually lies in the way of using electrical vehicles, the battery technology that they have, and the solar solutions. Tesla's competitive advantage is their relentless innovation and the dedication to sustainability, which sets them apart from any other car manufacturer. There is a framework you can actually use to frame your own how. First, you start by explaining your unique advantage. Is it your technology? Is it your pricing model? Is it the customer experience itself? And then you can use a problem-solving framework. Here you think about what problem do you solve and how do you solve it better than anyone else. A very good tip is to actually focus on one clear advantage. So instead of explaining how your business operates, it's best to focus on one very clear advantage and emphasize on it. Trying to do too much can actually confuse the audience. By focusing on single and standing out feature will help them remember you, and this is the main point here. It's key to actually build a strong identity in this very crowded market. You can, in a way, own a word in the mind of your customers, and that will be the best case scenario, because then you'll create a very lasting impression in their minds and they'll remember you. This word should captivate the essence of what you actually do and what sets you apart than the other, what you want to be known for in a way. When people think of your business, that should be the word that comes to mind immediately. Let me give you another example with this. Think about Volvo, the car manufacturer. They own the word, in a way, safety. Like all of their campaigns are focused on safety. For decades, they have focused on being the safest car on the road. That one word, safety, is actually what people associate them every time when they hear the brand. And it's why many customers actually choose them over others. So to identify that one word or that one key advantage that your business has and that defines you, you have to make sure that that's your central part of all the messages that you have. Whether it is the quality, the innovation, the sustainability, reliability, owning that word will actually help you and help your customers remember you and stand out in front of everyone else. Once you have explained your why and how, it's time to clearly describe what your business offers. After building this emotional and logical connection with your audience, now is the time to actually present your product or service in detail. The key here is to frame your what through how and through why. Let me give you an example again. Think about Apple. We all know the brand, right? They start with their purpose, challenging the status quo, and how they achieve that by beautiful and very intuitive designs. Only after that do they actually talk about the products that they do, the computers, the phones, and everything else that they sell with it. Their what is framed by their why and their how, which makes the offering far more compelling than just saying what they're selling. Practical tip here for formulating your what will be to keep it very simple. Avoid this overloading with very much technical jargon. Try to connect it back to your why, which makes it way more meaningful and your product will stand out more. End this with a strong call to action. Your pitch should actually always end with a very clear, confident ask. Don't be afraid to ask your clients or customers for what they should do afterwards. What do you want from them? Be very specific, whether it is an investment, a sale, or a partnership. For example, a successful pitch ends with an actionable step. Patagonia, for example, asks their customers to not only buy their gear, but join them in their mission to protect the environment. This strong, aligned call to action turns their audience into supporters. To wrap it up, all the steps that you have to go through is that first you have to explain the purpose behind your business, basically, or why, and why does it exist, and why what you do actually matters. Next step will be to show what sets your business apart, what makes you different, your how, or how do you solve the problems that you do. Finally, you have to describe the product or service, but only after showing the purpose and how you deliver on it. Be very specific on what you want from them at the end and have your call to action. People remember stories more than facts. Even from childhood, they teach us about moral, values, and the world around us in the form of stories. And those stick with us for our whole lives. So frame your message as a story that connects emotionally with your audience. So how do we do that? How do we master storytelling and highlight our unique value propositions? Well, here are a few tips that you can use to craft your actual story. First, you start with a problem. Every great story has a problem or a challenge to solve. Begin by explaining the problem about your business and how it addresses it. Make it relatable and real for the audience. Show them why this problem matters. This is your why, basically. Then position the business as the solution. Introduce your business as the hero of the story, the one that steps in and solves actually this problem. This is where you include your unique value proposition. What do you do? How do you do it differently? Focus on the how, especially, and the way you deliver the solution, whether it's through the innovation, through customer care, or to something that you only provide. Then use this real example or a case study. Maybe personalize the story in a way that you show an example of how your business already has solved it for somebody else. Keep it short, but very impactful. Show the real results that you actually make with your story. This will make it more credible and more relatable. At the end, you need to really end with the impact. So that will be your what. Finish the story by explaining the positive change your solution brings. What transformation do your customers experience? The goal is to leave your audience with a very clear understanding of how your unique approach makes a real difference. At the very end, add your call to action. Here is what you need to remember when combining the why, how, what approach with storytelling to actually convince others about your business idea. First, create the emotional engagement. This is your why. By leading with purpose, you make your audience care about your mission and values. Then build trust and differentiation. This is your how. Explain your unique methods, your approaches, show how you are actually the best in what you do and what sets you apart from everyone else and the competition. Close with clarity by showing your what. present your offering last. It is more meaningful because now you have already tied it to the bigger purpose and the clear value proposition. Finally, throw the ball to them by clearly having a call to action. At the end of the day, people want to connect with something real. When you're clear about why you do what you do and share it in a way that it resonates with your business, you will speak actually for itself. So don't be afraid to show up, tell your story, and let your passion drive your success.